Hello, I'm Professor Ken Field. I'm chair of the biology department here at Bucknell University. And you've probably seen this graphic here that was sent out by President Brovman last week. And one of the points I wanted to make when I created this graphic using resources from the New York Times was to emphasize that exposure to COVID-19 while you're traveling or as you arrived here at Bucknell would not have been detected during the initial test in uh, either before arrival or after you got here, but that you would need to have a much later test like you might be getting this week in order to see whether or not you were exposed during that time. What I wanted to emphasize now is that first, the good news. We have gotten through this window for most of the students here on campus, and we did have 10 or more students that had positive tests before they arrived here at Bucknell. They weren't allowed to come onto campus. They've had to quarantine. The next wave of tests that we've conducted has also detected a few cases, but so far there's only been 5 positive tests on campus, and there have been none in the past 3 days of testing as of 2 days ago when we have the normal lag. So that's been really a positive sign that most of the students have been arriving without having positive tests, and that the few students that have tested positive since then are now in isolation, and we're doing contact tracing and quarantining for anyone they might have been in touch with. So that's been working well. We're now entering the next critical phase of the semester for testing and tracing, shown here. This is no longer a figure with specific dates. Instead, it shows you if you got a negative test result today, what it would mean. So first of all, that test that you got today probably was a swab that was done 2 days ago or so, depending on how quickly the testing is being done and processed. That means that if you'd been exposed during those 2 days, there's absolutely no way for the test to detect the coronavirus during that time because the swab was taken prior to exposure. But in addition, in the 1 to 3 days prior to that, if you had been exposed, you might not yet test PCR positive. It seems to be 4 or more days prior to the swab that you need for the incubation time in order to both start showing symptoms, or if you're asymptomatic or pre-symptomatic, for at least the PCR to detect the virus. So this is what I call here the danger zone. You can see that the danger zone goes back 5 days or so before you got your negative test. You don't know from that test whether or not you were exposed during that period of time. It does conclusively tell you that you weren't exposed prior to that, at least with pretty high confidence. And so you do know that it's not likely that you're currently infectious if you have a negative test. Now, unfortunately, one of the things we have to keep in mind is that this kind of danger zone keeps sliding. And as we get a second test, your next scheduled test after you've had one negative test will then be testing whether or not you were exposed the 5 or more days before that test result is received, and so on down the line. So you need to wear your mask, practice social distancing, avoid large gatherings. All of the things we've been telling you about washing your hands and avoiding touching your masks are all important every day. So you really have to maintain good infection control throughout the entire semester in order for us to keep control of the infection here on campus. Thank you for listening, and have a great semester, everyone.